Every single person has their own individualized program when they walk into our gym. None of it is a piece of paper. It
Got
is
it.
everything is auto-regulated. Every single client is auto-regulated in our gym. Now, everyone has a base template that we decide that person needs based on when they come. But we deviate from that base template every single day.
Okay.
Every single day, and we individualize everything. So it's like, hey, how you feel today? What'd you do today at school? My hip hurts. Why does your hip hurt? Oh, I played dodgeball. Like, you schmuck. All right, well, we're not doing high intensity stuff because you're walking with a limp and you don't even realize it. So there goes high intensity sprint work. So everything is auto regulated, and because everyone gets their own individualized program, it's relatively expensive for group training, but insanely inexpensive for an individualized program.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the MTB Performance Project. On this week's episode, we have Mike Guadango. Mike is the owner of Freak Strength in New Jersey, also a fellow podcaster, and then just a coach to many elite athletes and all levels of athletes. So, Mike, good to have you on today, brother.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate carving the time. I know how busy it is with running business, having a family, like trying to be present in all those roles. It can be somewhat hectic from day to day. So appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. It's
um,
here as it goes, right?
yeah. And it's just, as life gets crazier, you got more things pulling on you. You got to, as a human being, you just got to do what you can to keep it all moving forward. Right. Well, awesome. So you want to get right into it. You've been coaching elite athletes and like somebody who's run a very successful gym and just been operating at a very high level for a long time. Somebody I respect in the industry, right? You're a coach who's truly coaching athletes, doing what you're saying you're doing and walking the walk. What got you into the world of sports performance in the first place?
Originally wanted to do chiropractic. I was always injured. I had my first physical therapist was Alan Roth. He ended up becoming like a business mentor without knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like 13, 14 years old. I was always in and out of the hospital because I was a wrestler and baseball player, but always in and out of the hospital from wrestling, like hyperextend the elbow, hyperextend the knee, fractured this, tore that, dislocated this. So PT was a regular thing, even at 13, 14 years old. And I really enjoyed it. Had some back issues, neck issues, went to the chiropractor, really liked the
Mm-hmm.
cracking. Back then, chiropractors made a killing. And I really enjoyed like the healing aspect of stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe I go to a chiropractic school. And then as I started going on and on a little bit more, I ended up training with another physical therapist, Bill Gilligan. He ended up being one of my trainers. Then I found Joe DeFranco. He ended up being one of my trainers. And when I went to college, I originally thought like, oh, maybe I'll go to physical therapy school.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I stayed with DeFranco, I enjoyed what he did. I hated back then you had to be a bio major or a chem major in order to go to college, to
Mm-hmm.
go to PT school. It's like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't prepare you at all. I don't, it's stupid. So I ended up not going to physical therapy school. Didn't even apply. I majored in exercise physiology, which I think is the best major at the time for a physical therapist to walk into, not, biochem, whatever it is. It's essentially pre-med. And I worked for Joe right off the bat, then got an internship with Buddy Morris and James the Thinker Smith. And it like right off the bat, like I was inundated because I was with DeFranco for 7 years, 6 years before even I think 6 years before even meeting Buddy Morris. And then once I met, so I had a good foundation in what Joe did
Yeah.
and met Buddy and James and just
Yeah.
like everything got turned upside down. So then they exposed me to Charlie Francis, more of Charlie Francis than I already knew from DeFranco. I didn't know that much of Charlie Francis, and then dove deep into that and got into the trackside therapy. And trackside therapy means you need to put hands on people.
Mm-hmm.
So I started putting hands on people. I had to stretch them out, had to do this, PNF stretching, and then fascial stretching, and then slowly got more and more. And then I ended up dating a massage therapist. So she taught me massage therapy. So
Mm-hmm.
I started learning some of that stuff. And then I went to school I needed to do more. I needed to learn more. So I was like, all right, let me go back to school either for physical therapy or for acupuncture. And at the time in New Jersey, Physical therapists couldn't needle. So I was
Mm,
like, all right. Now, if I go for physical therapy school, the only thing I'm going to learn or get access to that I can't get on my own is the ability to bill insurance, which I don't want to deal with. I'm
yeah.
faced now. I don't want to deal with insurance. So it doesn't unlock any other door other than I have Dr. Guadango, which I could still get with acupuncture, and I can't needle. So
Yeah.
I'll go to acupuncture school. So I went to acupuncture school, and I don't regret a single minute of it. It was a great. I haven't made the money back. It was 60 grand. I haven't made the 60 grand back from being an acupuncturist yet. But the knowledge that I've ascertained, I mean, it just keeps shifting because I started off chiropractic, physical therapy, then said, oh, performance training, and how do you get more performance training? Being better at chiropractic, physical therapy. Like it's
Yeah.
that's where it stems from. Because I mean, you tell me someone that hasn't been injured, I'll show you someone that never came off the bench. Oh,
I
that's
love
the
it.
truth. So
Yeah.
like that's that's where I started my mindset, and I ended up, life's a circle. I ended up in the exact same spot where I thought it would end up being. And now as a business owner, I'm almost kind of kicking myself for not going to physical therapy school, because if I'm a licensed physical therapist, if I'm a doctor of physical therapy, now my whole gym is medical. So now I
Hmm.
have a 5 to 10x multiple on
Yeah.
my business if I open up 3 or 4 locations, maybe 15. Like, oh man, I'm in the medical space now. I could sell it and retire.
Yeah.
That I'm a schmuck gym owner acupuncturist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but you were following what you loved, and at the time you felt like it was the best option for what you were looking for. Like, and I agree. Like, there was a period, because we have physical therapists here, where they had all the credentials to needle, but they couldn't. And so, you don't want to make that obsolete if you spent so much time and resources to getting that stuff. How do you like that different skill set and different knowledge base? How do you kind of utilize that on a day to day in your training with athletes, adult fitness, so on and so forth?
Oh, I use it every day. Um, someone's always on the table.
Hmm.
Someone's always hurt. Someone doesn't feel great. Someone went drinking the night before and they fell downstairs. Like it's it's nonstop. You know what I mean? Like no one is ever healthy. No one ever
Yeah.
feels that. And I have the ability, whether it's through needle intervention, through Tuina, through anything like
Yeah.
Washa, whatever it is, I can and fascial stretching. And I use more fascial stretch therapy than I do needles, whether it's Aldoa stretches or whether it's actual FST type stuff,
Mm,
like the win, and Fredericks and in Chris Fredericks courses. My hands are always on someone at some point. Now we have 100 athletes that walk in and out of our, no, on a slow day, probably about like 20 to 50 athletes. On a big day, we'll have over 100 athletes walk in and out of our building,
yeah.
you know, every day.
Yeah.
Um, so, what are the chance, a 2% chance that someone needs a table work? Like I'd say that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's every day I'm working, and all my coaches. I have one coach that's certified fascial stretch therapist, and I have another coach that's a licensed massage therapist as well. So like we're all legally allowed to do it legally. Like who cares? Like you want help or not, and we all have the know-how.
Yeah.
It's cool, and we all actually know how to do it. We're properly educated, and we have the interest in doing it because it's all about, for us, it's about elite performance.
Yeah.
Elite performance first, then making money second, which is why we've stayed relatively small.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, from like a day to day standpoint, what is your model like where you can, because I'm sure there's a lot of gyms who are listening to this, or people who own a gym where like that just doesn't jive with their model, right? Like that's physically impossible. Tell us how you've kind of set up your business to allow you to work and operate in that fashion.
So we do semi-private training in a group model,
Hmm.
which sounds like, wait, what? Every single person has their own individualized program when they walk into our gym.
Okay.
None of it is a piece of paper. It
Got
is
it.
everything is auto-regulated. Every single client is auto-regulated in our gym. Now, everyone has a base template that we decide that person needs based on when they
Yeah.
come, but we deviate from that base template every single day.
Okay.
Every single day, and we individualize everything. So it's like, hey, how you feel today? What'd you do today at school? My hip hurts. Why is your hip hurt? Oh, I played dodgeball. Like you schmuck. Like so like, all right, well, we're not doing high intensity stuff because you're walking with a limp and you don't even realize it. So there
Yeah.
goes high intensity sprint work. So everything is auto regulated, and because everyone gets their own individualized program, it's relatively expensive for group training, but insanely inexpensive for an individualized program that the second you go on the table, that's $150. So we don't charge that. We charge $45 a session for our semi-private stuff, which is so cheap because the second I put anyone on the table, I get $150, whether it's 10 minutes, an hour, whatever. $150 for an acupuncture session with me. The second you get on the table, that's 3 sessions. You know what I mean? Like your one session is worth 3. So
Yeah.
the value for everyone is so no one has we don't have any issues with prices or anything. So and our sessions now we have a range. There's official start times, but there's no official end times.
Yeah.
So session is done when your session is done. That is not a great business model because you need insanely competent coaches to be able to pull
Yes.
it off, and insanely competent coaches cost
Yep.
a lot of money,
Yeah.
and real estate costs a lot of money. So like you
Yeah.
know, and on top of that, like all expenses, I think all my expenses have gone up. Since 2020, probably 10% a year. Like no BS.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, my expenses are going up almost 10% every single year from the previous year, not from the original year.
Yep.
10% almost every year. So it's like talk about an exponentially losing more and more money. That's why you either grow or die.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely empathize with that because like we have a pretty big team here, and also being in New Jersey, like the cost of living is expensive, so you got to compensate your people if you want to keep them. If you want to have good people, you got to pay them well, and also real estate. We've got a large facility. It keeps going up every year. So,
Huh?
I'm interested with like that you had said how anytime an athlete gets on your table now, like do they know like at any point in time like if they utilize those services, like they're going to get billed for that, right?
Oh,
How does that kind of work in terms of like, is that just part of like the expectation when athletes are working with you on a day-to-day basis?
so I don't bill them. So they have their session, and whatever
Hmm.
the session costs is their session. So they pay their flat rate $45 a session, or
Yeah.
$150 or $200 a session, whether they go on the table or not.
Hmm.
That's what it is. If they go on the table, cool, it's still $45. I'm here to train you for this day. You signed up for this group session. So yesterday, for example, it was a rainy day and everyone had aches and pains. Everyone had a shoulder pain or everyone had back pain or something. I had 7 guys on the table in our group session. All of them paid $45.
Yeah.
So like I don't charge extra to
Got it.
help. They're paying the way I look at it, they're paying for my expertise in this group session to do what needs to be done. And they're
Hmm.
trusting me with that. So like I can deliver. Like
Love it.
I it's dumb. I should essentially what I should be doing is I should have like the trade up option, but like
Yeah, but it's tough because especially when, and you're probably very similar, like you're there to serve the athletes and you want to give them, from an auto regulation standpoint, like you want to give them exactly what they need on that day, right? They're in front of you. Your job is to serve them, right? And you're not trying to knock a square peg in a round hole. And it's like, all right, you need this today, so I'm going to give you this, right? But that's how to me, like that's how you build long-term value, right? A very short-sighted, nearsighted person would say like, well, I put you on the table, so I'm going to charge you extra. No, no, no. I'm building long-term value. So you just like, you see how much I care, right? Like there's care and empathy there, and doing the right thing. And I respect the hell out of that.
yeah, they don't care what you know until they know that you care, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But but even so, like the our LTV is awesome. Like people don't leave, they don't churn out because
Yep.
I I mean I'll tell you what I think I th- I think my referrals were better when I had the long hair and- because I looked like a wizard. So like yo, you got to go. Now I just kind of look like I got the high fade. Like look look gay. I'm, you know, but like I don't know. It's the ability to heal people is so awesome. It
Hmm.
really is. It's you get such a better relationship with guys. They have so much more trust for you.
Yeah.
And bro, I do it for free. Like
Yeah.
I train, I give away probably $100,000 worth of training every single year. Probably something of 50, 100 grand easily. Easy.
Hmm.
I train people for free all the time. And we had a guy that just lost for one of our adults, just lost a ton of weight, just hit his goal. He's like, oh, I got to take a break. I said, why? He goes, I can't afford it. I was like, bro, you just hit your goal. Like, what are you talking about? I said, come for free. I don't care. He goes, no, I can't come for free. Like, I have to. And he's like, no, dude, like,
Yeah.
You're coming for free. What do I care? Like,
Yeah.
let's wait. What am I doing this for? Like,
Yeah.
you need to eat right. Like, I can help you do this. Like, let's improve your life.
Yeah.
You know? It'd be one thing if I was starving and it's like, yo, we got to work something out. But like, I'm not, so I can
Yeah.
give.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not even. And for me, that's not even about the money or the long term play. It's like, how can we help these people as best as we can?
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm friggin' preaching now. Like, but like, still, like, I get into this. It's funny. I'm pretty Jesus-y, and I went back and forth. It was funny, right? Um, I go back and forth with oh, should I take the Sabbath? Should I not? Should I take a Sunday off? Should I not? Right? Should I observe? And then it's like, oh well, Jesus healed a man on the Sabbath, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted to come at him and say, oh, you're not a holy guy or whatever. Like you're. So it's like, you know what? He could heal guys on Sabbath. I can heal guys on Sabbath. That's all right. I don't need to take any days off for now. I could start if someone's in pain. I have no problem having come over to my house. I got a table in my house. I have
Yeah.
a room there. I'll work on you there. Like pain stinks. If you want personal training on Sunday, no. But like
Yep.
you're in pain, like
Yeah.
man, I'd love to help you. And like you trust me, like it's talking about an honor. It's cool. Like
Yeah.
I'm the person. I was talking about this with my wife last night because my dad, or a couple nights ago, my dad came in. He goes, my Achilles is bothering me. So all right, hop on the couch. Let me stick some needles. And didn't touch his Achilles, didn't touch his foot, went right for tibialis anterior, released that. Achilles pain went down big time, right? And my wife's like, yo, it's so cool. How, like
Yeah.
that you were able to identify that. I said, yeah, it's like, it's a gift. It's an honor. It's a gift. And I have the ability to help heal people now. Like I'm a healer. I can't ever let that go to waste. So like,
Yeah.
I won't let money stand in the way of healing someone. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm not starving.
Yeah. I respect that. And and especially so, you've kind of dealt with a huge breadth of athletes, right? And like the whole life cycle of athletes. Like you probably don't need as much of that with young athletes, but when you start working with like high level elite athletes with a high training age that are like competing all year round, like that's an important part of it, right? Like and you have like you're working with these athletes every day in a long off season. They're not going to come in every day feeling good, and you're going to have to change and pivot some of the days, and being able to offer that for them and really optimize and creating more long-term impact on their training. That's often what they're looking for, right? Like anybody can take an elite athlete and create a relatively good program and they'll get some type of adaptation and improvement over the course of an off season. But it's how can you manage the day to day and really prioritize like long-term growth them, and listen to them on a day-to-day basis of how they're feeling. So
Dude,
it sounds like you do
to-
that.
totally. The value is in the body work, in my opinion, because I tell this story all the time. I had a really, really high profile guy who was in pain, and I got him out of pain. He said, I feel like me again. Like, ah,
Mm,
I, that's what I'm looking for. Like, if you're
yeah.
the world before you met me, how am I
Yeah.
getting better? Right?
Yeah.
Like, well, the only way I make you better is if I make you feel like you. If I could get you to express you in
Yeah.
the pain free, oh, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how am I gonna do that? Well, it ain't gonna be in a squat rack.
Yep.
No, it's not gonna be an A skips. Right? Like I, how am I gonna get you to feel better? Well, does it hurt when you move your arm? Yeah. Is moving your arm part of your sport? Yeah. Well, let's get that arm to feel better. Wow. Feel better.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's how you make the difference in elite performance, in my opinion. First things first, get them to be able to express themselves as good as they possibly can without any other intervention, without
Hmm.
performance enhancement. Because, like, imagine Michael Jordan. Do you think he really needed to improve his squat? No.
No.
Jordan just needed to get pissed off. So, like, what do you do to get Jordan to be as best as he possibly could? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I have a D end that I do body work on. He's a bad man. Like he was a first round pick. He was a bad dude. Like sweetheart guy, Jesus-y dude. And then it's got that. You remember Sean Merriman? How he had that light switch, right? This
Yep.
guy, he's got that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did before a game for him, I sat him down and we're talking. He's talking strategy and like, oh, this is tight. This is tight. I was like, none of this matters. He said, what do you mean? I was like, bro, you're a first rounder. He said, yeah. I said, not just any first rounder, you're a defensive end first rounder. He said, yeah. I said, you know what that means? What? You're the most athletic person in the draft. how many DNs were taken for you? He goes, none. Yeah. And you're an edge rusher. You're a savage. Dude, there's absolutely nothing a coach can tell you
Yeah.
that's going to make you better. There's nothing right now that these guys are going to do that's going to prevent you from murdering the person across from you. And the guys like getting like that's the stuff you do for performance enhancement. You know what I mean? Like get these guys to like light up and realize, dude, I'm unbreakable. I'm unstoppable. What can like that's the stuff. And then you get
Yeah.
them. That's how they have games. Now, if you're in pain, sure, but like
Yeah.
certain guys that gifted, sometimes they can just shut it all off. It doesn't even matter if they have a limp. Remember Lawrence Taylor? Like a broken fibula tackling guys? Like it don't matter. Like if you're that big of a savage, sometimes, man, I had a pitcher roll his ankle. He was having velo problems. And it was only sitting like 91, 92. And then he rolled his ankle and he got so angry he started throwing 94, 95. Right? Like, and that was his drive leg. Like that don't make sense, but like that's who we're dealing with. So
Yeah.
you figure out what the button is on each guy. Like, is it the physical stuff? And I've also had these guys rely on me too much, and I become a
Yeah.
crutch. So it's like I had a guy tell me, "Oh, my glute's not shutting on, and my glute's not turning on. My glute's shut off." He's sitting there. I was like, "Guy, you're 6'5", 240, and 4% body fat. I just watched you squat 405. Your glutes are fine. Like,
Yeah.
don't give me like, no, I'm telling you, my glutes." And he's sitting there pounding his glutes. I was like, "No, it's not firing. It's not firing. I feel it when I run." I was like, "Dude, get out of your head."
Yeah.
You know, like so. There's there's give and take to a lot of the bodywork stuff. You need to know, like Charlie Francis would there'd be times where he wouldn't tell guys times. Like, hey, what was my time? It's like, it's good. Don't worry about it. The guys that need to know will
Yeah.
know. The guys that don't need to know, like, is it a hindrance or not? You know, and that's elite performance. Like you
Hmm.
know it. You know
Yeah.
you know every single guy I just talked about. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
you
I've
have
seen him.
of each.
And that's the art of coaching that, you can't learn in a book or in a class or in a course. Like you just got to get out there and interact and talk to people. And like that takes reps and a lot of time and effort, right? Like you can't fake any of that stuff. And the moment you try to fake it, athletes, especially the really good ones, like they see the bullshit real fast.
Mhm.
Yeah. Love
Yeah.
it.
Brandon Marshall sat me down one time. We were training. There's a wide receiver, Brandon Marshall, not the linebacker. And this was towards the end of his career. And, you know, you can't fake it with these guys. These guys see right through so much BS. That's why it's like so good for me that I don't know who anyone is. Like, I don't watch sports. Like, if I watch sports, I'm watching my guy on the field. Like, that's it. I don't watch anything
Same.
else.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, click, turn it off. Like I had the opportunity to go to like three Super Bowls on back-to-back years because I had 3 or 4 guys on the Patriots those years. I didn't go. I don't care. I'm not going. It's
Yeah.
stupid. The waste of my time. I get a better view from the couch than surrounded by all these idiots. But like, B. Marshall was like, I asked him. I said, "What's about this place? Like, what do you like? Is it the coaching? Because if you get anywhere," he goes, "Man, real recognizes real. You know, like and that's what they feel when they deal with certain coaches. Like, sometimes you just don't have that personality for them, and that's cool.
Hmm. Yeah.
But like, you need to understand how to maneuver with these guys. Like, you can't. Some guys will be attracted to like a dork, but like most of them, these guys, like pro athletes, they're really cool. They don't
Yeah.
want to be around guys that are total losers. Like, you gotta have something to it.
You're probably the same way. Like you've been around elite athletes and you look at them just like normal people that they can just do one thing really well. And I just feel like there's a lot of people who don't see athletes and they look at them and they put them up on this pedestal. And I think most of those guys, they just want to be like treated like normal people, right? Have normal conversations. Like they have normal problems like us. And it becomes weird when, you got this guy who's a fanboy and, it's just, it's an interesting dynamic when you look at other people like our peers interact or talk about these people. I'm like, yeah, they're just normal dudes. And
Yeah.
so, and they see that, like they see that we're not enamored with their status or who they are, or what they do. It's like, look, we just see them as a person who's here to get better and is, looking for answers on how to, either stay healthy, get better, improve. It doesn't matter, but how do we help them, right? How can we help them? And a lot of it is just building a relationship with them and showing up every day and like showing that we give a shit and like we're not just treating them like a paycheck, which is, like we're genuinely there to help them, achieve whatever it is they're trying to do. So
Yeah, 100%. I have every now and then I get trolled, and when I get trolled, sometimes I respond with grace, and every now and then I'll open up a can, uh, I mean, and I'll say something like, there's literally no difference between training Devin McCourty and training an average Joe. There really isn't. He whines a little bit less. He runs a little bit faster.
Mhm.
Right? And I've trained some insane celebrities, like guys that everyone would know. And people be like, yo, what was it like training him? He's an old man. Like, what do you mean? Like, he's an old man that just likes talking about himself. Like, but and when he works out, he smells like crap, just like you do. Like, what? It's like that's all there is to it. Like, there's
Yeah.
just a dude, but like people see things so much differently, and he's got just as many problems in his head as you do.
Yeah.
Like, and that's they're just people. They're
Yeah.
all just people, and if you take that step outside and see, do you ever hear the word sonder?
No.
Okay, so the words, let me look it up so I don't butcher this. I found it years ago, and it changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. I'll read the quote that I saw of Sonder. The realization that each passerby has a life as vivid and complex as your own, right? And they gave examples of an apartment complex that was completely dark except for one light. One light was on. Meantime, all you notice is that one light, but there's
Mhm.
100 apartment complexes right there. They're all living a life with insane thoughts and insane wonders. And did I leave the coffee pot on? Is the oven still on? Oh, I forgot to take the dogs for a walk. Oh my God, I left my kid in the grocery store. Like it's every single person in those windows, and that's one huge apartment building, is living a life just as crazy as yours. So like, it's dude, just a little perspective. Say a pro athlete is one of those windows.
Yeah.
They're just a dude. And it's like out of sight, out of mind. They don't think about you, or you don't think about them until you come cross paths again. Meantime, the other 23 hours of the rest of the day, they're living a life with their own thoughts and experiences. Thing to think about, how many people are just like that, and they're just average Joes. That's all these pro guys are.
Yeah.
Average. They're just with that are kids with a lot of money and a lot of ability. Like
Yeah.
God gave us all, let's say God gave us all 1,000 chips. Well, Kanye got 999 chips in one pile, and then he has to sparingly, put the one chip for other things. That's why he's so good at like that one thing,
Yeah.
that art that he does, right?
Yeah.
These pro athletes have 900 chips in the athlete pile, and they got to spare it out everywhere else. We're all dealt the same kind of chips. You got to figure out how to maneuver through life, and they're just trying to do the same thing.
That's a great perspective because most people can't look at it like that from that framework, right? Like they almost look at it in a resentful way, like, that could have been me or this or that. And it's like, no, there's a reason why those individuals are performing at that level. They're of a percent of people that in our population that can do that. But like you said, they have their problems, like their lives go on just like anybody else. And most people don't realize that, unless you're around them on a day-to-day basis, and you see that, and you see like there's sacrifices they make to be that good, right? It's always like you look at high profile business people, they don't get there by not making sacrifices in some aspect of their lives. The whole thought of creating balance in their life, there is no balance. Like it's an obsession with doing this one thing exceptionally well. In the case of an athlete, it's their sport, right? And so it's very interesting. So I want to get into like your frameworks and how you look at athletes, but I don't want to like just talk about like training, because you're very good at what you do. And kind of like what we've been talking about is you've been fortunate to work with athletes over a long extended period of time, right? I think there's a lot of coaches who don't show that short-term and long-term ROI. So they might work with an athlete one off season and they never come back. Right. I've worked with kids from, freshman year in high school who are, 10 years later pitching in the big leagues. I worked with athletes who have, pitched a full career in the big leagues, kept them healthy. And it's like the way you train those athletes through that evolution changes. And so I'm curious as to what frameworks you use to kind of look at early development, middle development, late stage career of an athlete. What are some of the things that are common threads that you're looking at in terms of how you're developing these athletes?
First things first, Bondarchuk. Bondarchuk has, with his youth athletes, he could have a youth athlete do the same program for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Meat and potatoes, right? So our youth program, there's nothing sexy about it. Nothing sexy about it. And even our older athlete program. So I have two Division I basketball player, or three, but two Division I basketball players working out at the same time right now. One's been with me for 8 years. The other one's been with me for 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
They're both teammates. They both play at relatively similar levels. They're not doing anything close to the same workout. And they're both, 18 years old. The one 18-year-old that's new, man, he's just doing lunges till the cows come home, right? The other guy doing explosive jump squats right now. They're both doing sprints. They're both doing jumps. One's doing depth jumps. The other one's doing box jumps,
Mm-hmm.
right? The outline of the program is similar. They're working out at the same time. But he's like, yo, why are you doing lunges? He goes, buddy, I did lunges for 3 years. That's why
Yeah.
you're doing lunges. Like, I earned this. Like,
Yes.
and he's still not that strong after
Yeah.
doing all those lunges, but like at 6'6" or 6'5",
Yeah.
like he moves well. You know what I mean? So it's all our guys, they'll earn different levels to their training. And it's not like, hey, you get your gold star. It's like, all right, you've yielded all the adaptation that you're going to get
Mm-hmm.
out of this exercise, and now we'll move on. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna waste it. You started off with 30s for your lunges. That was 2 weeks ago. You're at 50s today. Cool. Do 55s tomorrow. And until like I start seeing diminishing returns with that, or like, hey, you're doing lunges with like 75 pounds for the past 3 weeks. Like, I'm not getting any stronger. Yeah, okay, cool. We can move on. We don't need to. If we don't need to move on, we're not going to move on because you're still getting just as strong. And what's the difference between a lunge and a squat anyway?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the same darn thing. It don't matter.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I slow cook everything. Now, from the other perspective, I don't get a lot of pro guys that are young. I get the vets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I'm very, very simplistic in my approach. There's no dumb drills on my Instagram. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing sexy. It's very simple stuff. And it's a ton of, how do you feel? How do you feel?
Yeah.
Where the only people that actually appreciate that are guys that have been injured or vets. And almost all vets have been injured. So I had a guy, I took the bar off his back. I refused to let him put a bar on his back. And he was like a 600 pound squatter. I was like, 1, how much more do you need to squat?
Yep.
2, have you ever not had a bar on your back? So like we argued for weeks about it. I was like, dude, just trust me. Finally, he went the whole in season without putting a bar on his back. He goes, wow, I just did belt squat. I can't tell you how good I felt. I didn't know my back could feel this good. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
those are the arguments that I have with the young guys. Whereas the old guys like, hey, no bar, no problem. Like, I'm fine
Yeah.
with, like, I don't need the bar. I understand that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You're trying to get them back to feeling like themselves, right? Like that's what you're shooting for. And anybody who's coached older athletes, more mature athletes, or just athletes in general, like we all remember the way we felt like 5-10 years ago. Just to get a sniff of that is like, holy shit, like that feels incredible.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, yeah. And that's, so I had a guy who was a career special teams guy, which means he went up and down from practice squad for 8 years. And year 1, he won a Super Bowl. And year 8, he was with a horrible team, but he kept getting cut, brought back, brought back with every single team he was with. It's on like 3 or 4 different teams.
Mhm.
Made a living for 8 years. I don't think there was a week in 8 years where he didn't get paid, or maybe, yeah, I think he got paid every week for 8 years for the most part, which is, for a guy like that, it's rare, but he's real
Yeah.
good. He was not nearly as fast or as strong in year 7 as he was year 1, but he was such a better football player,
Mhm.
like an insanely better football player. So my goal was to keep him healthy for as long as we possibly could for his entire career. And an ankle injury was like, ended up being his demise. He had a surgery. They tried scraping away some arthritic bone. When you scrape away, that's why they do
Yeah.
scrape it away. It grows right back.
Yep.
So locked up, he couldn't get into the positions that he had to get into. time to retire. It led to knee issues, hip issues, groin issues. So it was
Yeah.
just, but 8 years in the NFL, not bad. Like we pulled that fuse out. We can't get, because everyone's a bomb about to blow up. And it's like, how long can I just keep that fuse? Like extend the fuse as long as we possibly can, prevent them from blowing up. That's what we did. I remember I had a guy who had really bad neck problems. Every time he'd run and his shoulders would go like that, he'd get shooting pains down his arms.
Hmm.
I was like, yo, you have like, this is vertebral. This is an issue. This is nerve. This is a problem. He goes, it's contract year. I said, okay. So we figured out if he ran with his fist clenched, it would keep him tight enough that his shoulders wouldn't collapse. So he made it through the season. Awesome. Got his guaranteed money. Had a neck surgery. Following year, jumps, lands on his neck, lands on his back for a ball, arms go paralyzed.
Oh.
What? And he couldn't move for like 5 minutes. What's going on? Came back, all was better. But he got his guaranteed money. He had his contract, his guaranteed money, never played football again. We're trying to, like, everyone's going to blow up. Especially in a sport like football, you're guaranteed to blow up at some point. My job help you make as much money as you possibly can. So what are we going to do to prevent these blowups at the right time?
Yeah, it's all about those veteran athletes just staying available, right? That's the best thing you can provide for them. And what that looks like for every athlete is slightly different, right? And again, it goes back to understanding the needs of the athlete, meeting them where they're at, communicating with them on a day-to-day basis, and just it's not easy because it takes a lot of work from a coaching standpoint, and then understanding, like, treating each situation and each athlete slightly differently, right? And it sounds like, based on what you said earlier, like that's kind of what you're doing across the board with all of your levels of athletes. So you've been at this for a long time. Are there some like first principles that you kind of abided by early on that you still feel like are relevant today?
Absolutely. Hard work. I mean, like, you can't beat hard work. You really can't. Obsession beats motivation every day, every single day. Like, if you're genuinely obsessed with what you're doing, totally work your butt off, be obsessed, that type of stuff. But from a training perspective, actual training principles, I mean, I change my mind about everything. Like, when I was first starting off, I could have told you how to make Usain Bolt faster. So, like, I'm not that guy anymore. I do know that max effort work gets guys strong, whether it's maximum repetitions, maximum effort, gets guys strong. Running fast gets guys fast. Like, it's that basic stuff. Now, the maxing out type stuff and the running fast type stuff, you have to undulate it. At the end of the day, if you just lift really, really hard and you run really, really fast and you don't stop doing that, you're likely to get really, really good. Like, you're likely to achieve the goals of getting stronger, faster, bigger.
In that same token, are there things that you've kind of changed your mind completely about in the last 15 to 20 years?
How long you got? Right? Like, let's start with structuralism. It's kyphotic, hyperkyphotic, lordotic, hyperlordotic, curved spine, scoliosis, torn labrums in both hips and knees, or hips and shoulders. I had a guy with a torn labrum, a pitcher with a torn labrum. I said, don't get your surgery. Don't get the surgery. It'll ruin your career. It'll end your career. I said, that's sports adaptation. That's not a problem. Your hip hurts for another reason. They discovered the torn labrum because your hip hurts, but your hip is not hurting because of the torn labrum. Your hip's hurting for another reason. Tore his labrum, got it repaired, never played again, never threw hard again, right? Same thing with shoulder labrums. What does any of that mean? Forward head posture. Well, look at a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, don't tell me a forward head posture is bad. Every wrestler's right there. Like, that's how they play the sport. Hyperkyphosis. Look at every deadlifter. They're all right here. And they're the strongest guys on the planet. So don't tell me it's bad. And do they have herniated upper discs, herniated cervical or thoracic discs? I don't think so, because if they did, their arms would go numb. Like, there's so many things I've changed my mind on. I mean, even gait, like when you run, or being more bow-legged, being more knock-kneed, like or even I used to call it like banana knees, where guys have hyperextended knees. To me, it was like a guarantee that they were going to tear their ACL. I've since had 3 guys with the hyperextension of their knees not tear their ACL, and One played 4 years of high school, one played 4 years of college, plus is in the pros right now. Like another guy, high school, no issues. So like that's not a be all end all. I can't tell you how many things I've changed my mind on. And even with lifting, West Side for Skinny Bastards isn't the be all end all. Oh
Hmm.
my gosh, imagine that. It's an awesome program. I've gotten guys so strong, so fast on it. I used to do it. It's what we did at the Francos.
Yeah.
I can't do it for very long anymore. To me, it's
Yeah.
like a intensity program now, right? Like you could do it for 6 weeks, which is why all our combine guys got so big, so strong, so fast. But like you do it long term, like eh,
Yeah.
everything has its time and place. So I used West Side for Skinny Bastards for I had a guy that was thinking about retiring. He just hated the monotony, hated it. So I was like, bro, you and I are working out together. So like I never work out with my clients because you and I are working out together. He said, okay, what'd we do? We did West Side for Skinny Bastards. Like max effort day, dynamic day, maybe some sprints, nothing too crazy. He goes, what are we doing? I said, dude, we're getting swole. We're like enjoying working out. And for 4 weeks, he felt great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Oh, he ended up retiring anyway, but like we delayed it. Like it was sometimes sometimes you just need to make things fun. Sometimes fun is more important
Yeah.
because like it keeps you going, you know? There are so many more things to it than the sets and reps and the science of everything we learn in exercise physiology and every study that just recently came out that's proving every other study wrong. There's so much more to it. And even, dude, even the power of belief. Did you ever read Bruce Lipton's book? Goes in. Bruce Lipton's one of the first guys to do stem cell research. The Biology of Belief was one of his books. He's got some really cool stuff. Some of his stuff is really out there, but
Hmm.
it's like epigenetics versus genetics and what the environment does to influence. You know the difference between all that. But I mean, old school acupuncturists, another example that'll all come together. Old school acupuncturists, what they used to do is they'd write a prescription down. They'd write something down. They'd fold up the piece of paper, put it in the front pocket. Said, don't move that for a week and you'll feel better. What is that? It's placebo, right? It's the power of belief, right? So, like, even just thinking you can do something or believing that you can do something. I heard a story about Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza, when he was a rookie in the minor leagues, was horrible. Struck out, popped up, but had the biggest ego in the world. And they're like, who is this guy? Like he'd pop up to the catcher and look at the pitcher, and be like, oh, bro, I had you. I had you. Buddy, you lucked out. I had you. He'd swing and miss. He's like, ooh, I just missed that. You know what I mean? Like he's Mike Piazza now. Do you know what I mean? Like the guy's
Yeah.
a Hall of Famer. So like there's something to the power of belief, the power of just whether it's positive thinking, negative thinking, whatever it is, there's something to it. There really is. And back in the day, maybe you couldn't convince me otherwise. Like it's Mike Boyle is not a pussy. That's another thing that I think about frequently. When I was younger, I called him a pussy. And I did you ever see those conversations he and I had back and forth?
No.
So
Oh my goodness.
I said, yeah, I said on a podcast like I don't know, like 7 years ago. They're like, hey, what are your biggest regrets? It's like, I gotta apologize for Mike Boyle because I always thought he was a pussy, and I never met the guy.
Yeah.
Never met him. Never said two words to him. Like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer. I don't know. I get a tweet like, "Hey, thanks for not thinking I'm a pussy anymore." I didn't know what he was talking about, and then he sent me a clip of the podcast. I was like, "Oh, bro!" And he and I are friends now. But
Yeah.
like the unilateral movement, right? You don't have to train heavy to get strong.
Yeah.
You don't have to squat to get strong, and you don't have to squat to get better at squat.
Yeah.
Like, what? You could do other things to you could just get your legs generally strong to get better at squat.
Hmm.
Now, is it specific? No. But there's different ways you can influence different things. Like I said, I could talk about the things that I don't believe anymore for another
Yeah.
for another 20 years. And then
Yeah.
by the way, if we do this podcast in 10 years, I'll go back on everything that I just said.
Yeah. That's generally how, like you said earlier, things go full circle. And what I see is somebody who's been working with really high level athletes for a long time. And you almost have to come at it from different alternatives with these athletes, right? If you're doing the same thing in year 8, 9, 10 as you were in years 1, 2, and 3, right?
Uh-huh.
Like when they were high school athletes versus when they're a 5 to 10 year vet, you're not going to have a job, right? And their body just doesn't respond to that stuff anymore. And so it almost forces you to think of other ways, right? Like I have athletes who come to me, and first thing I do is like, what do you want to accomplish? And whether it's a high school athlete or a high level athlete, and I have to adapt my training based on what those athletes' needs are, right? If I have an athlete who comes to me and wants to get faster, and I don't sprint them, well, what am I doing, right? Like, you got to meet the athlete where they are, and you got to create an opportunity for them to work on the things they want to work on. Obviously, we're biased because we come with bias, and we've seen athletes over across, many years respond to certain things in certain ways, and we have our skill set to address those things. But right, the athlete, that's the best teacher. That's the one who you really need to listen to, and kind of address them on a regular basis, because if you're missing that part of the equation, like, you're not going to have a job for very long.
Yeah, and there's another thing too is meet them where they're at. It's we do a really good job of that with our adults. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's a mistake that I've made in the past where I've talked to pro guys and I ask them, I said, what's your goal? And they say mastery, sport mastery. I believe them. Like, I'm not gonna say something I don't mean. They don't genuinely mean it. Not all of them, but like in this one instance, so you hold them to a higher standard than they're willing to be held to, and
Yeah.
that disrupts training, right? That puts the damper on things. So like, even though they say certain things too, as the coach, as the elder, and this is why they pay you, you need to meet them where they're at the same time. And then
Yeah.
like also have your check-ins as well.
Hmm.
So I have some baseball guys that come in every year. I have football guys that come in every year, and they're all different personalities. And there's some guys where it's like, hey, so and so is doing an awful lot of, not great stuff while he's not here. You should talk to him and said, no, he needs to fail first. Because I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. Because if I talk to him now, he's like, boy, what you talking about? Yeah, I don't need nothing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But like, hey, I documented this. I knew we had to have this conversation at this date, but I delayed it because I knew you weren't ready to hear it. Are you ready to
Yeah.
hear? But like that type of accountability with certain guys is tough. You need to learn how to approach it. That's the art of, like you said, the art of coaching, communication. You gotta, you really have to learn how to approach it with everyone. And if you can't, you won't work with specific demographics.
Yeah, that's a really important nuance to understand. There's always, you can go down the list of all the athletes you've trained, and you can say like, well, that athlete needed to hear this at a certain time, and I waited to have that conversation because a year ago they couldn't hear that, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure I've had athletes who, high level athletes, like top first round draft picks, and like, they go through challenges. They come out of the draft like they're, in a great spot mentally, and there's going to be a challenging point. It's like, they have to figure out how to respond to that, right? They have to create the agency and understanding of how to deal with those situations. Yeah, I'm going to help guide them and be there when they need support, but they got to learn how to deal with those things, create the systems like anything else, and the processes to kind of get through those things, because that's the evolution of an athlete. And they're not going to learn that stuff when they're flying high and winning games and doing all, like, they're only going to learn when they're hit rock bottom and they're like, they can't figure it out. And it's like, that's where I come in and help. It's like raising kids. Like, you want to give them all the resources you can to make the right decisions at the right time, but they're only going to learn until they fuck up and do something where, like, they've fallen on their face and they learn through those hardships. And understanding that nuance with athletes is really important.
Okay. Let me tell you one of my favorite stories. So I trained for his entire professional career. And maybe with the exception of like the last year, he has family, kids. He moved out to Long Island. Like last 2 years were a little on and off. But in the beginning of his career, he had started making some teams, and we were together nonstop. And I was training for free for a long time. And he was such a twat. Like, I love him. I love him. I call him Uncle Chris, right? But like, man, what a wiener sometimes. And he was just being disruptive, and he was not listening, and he was being combative. And this was at DeFranco's. This is before I was out on my own.
Yeah.
I looked at him, and I talk about giving guys what they need, but like, man, being a young coach at the same time, he and I have been in fist fights too. Like, we're like brother. We're like, bro, I've had to beat his ass in
Yeah.
order to like come together, which I don't recommend to young coaches. But I looked at him. I said, Chris, and this was in a group of people, group of guys. So I wasn't showing off. I said, Chris, come on over here. He walks over and he's like expecting me to like be combative with him. I said, Chris, it's just not worth it. He was like, what? I said, bro, it just ain't worth it. do me a favor, go to Parisi's. I said, go to Parisi's. I don't need this aggravation. You're just not worth it. I I like you. We can be friends, but training you, man, I just hate you. So either you change or there's the door, man. I'm done with this. And I was a young coach. He was a young guy. He's an up and coming guy. He's a big name. And I watched him. He got like pissed off. He went, and he like walked towards the door for like 2 minutes, put his head down, turned around and came back. Like
Yeah.
so there's some times where you just gotta lay it down, bro. And there's
Yeah.
other times where like there are certain players that if I did that too, like it would be it wouldn't be helpful.
Yeah.
But I knew for Chris it was that certain and like before one of our fist fights, I said, "Yeah, did your dad hit you?" He goes, "No." I said, "That's why I have to." Like,
But it goes back to your comment earlier, like real recognizes real. Like you
mm,
know what those people need to hear, and they know it too,
mhm.
right? Like oftentimes, and I'm sure you've experienced this, like when somebody says something to you and it fires you up, often when it like hits that little trigger, that's when you like, oh, I hit a nerve because it's true. There's some truth behind that. That's why it hurts. And so, and that's where like you kind of have to pull that stuff out and use that. Like it takes a lot of like just relationship capital to pull something else, and you don't just pull it out for anything. So I love that.
Go to Parisi's.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had similar situations. I had an athlete many, many years ago who I'd coached for a long time. He played in the World Series, and I would have that like check in like the last week of the season, like they're wrapping up. I'm like, hey, let me know when you want to start back up. He's like, I'm going to take some time off. I think I need like 3 weeks. I'm like, bro, you don't have 3 weeks. I know you want to, but you need to be back here next week because the season starts at the same time. And he's like, and he knew that that's what he needs. And later, like 2 years ago, he's like, I appreciate you doing that because I needed that at the time. It's not what I wanted to hear, but like again, it's like as a coach, you got to be able to stand on your ground with athletes.
Hmm.
Yes, there is the balance of meeting them where they're at and giving them what they want to work on and that stuff. But again, you said it earlier, like they're coming to you, paying you as an expert because you know what they don't. It's always balancing that stuff. So I love it. And I heard you on a podcast recently, you had talked about how like for you, your development was always so focused on being a great coach. And I'm the same way. Like I built my business because I love to coach. It was always about the athletes, everything like how can I create a better experience and train athletes and give them the best of myself to get them to where they want to go. Until last like 5-10 years, I started to realize there is a limitation there from a business standpoint, right? I started to realize that if I want this thing, my business to grow, I'm the roadblock, right? And it sounds like you've kind of hit a certain spot, still love to coach, still love to kind of, continue to grow as a coach. What was the domino that fell like for you to kind of realize I need to start getting better at this because this is going to affect my ability to continue to work with athletes long term?
My wife quit her job. I'd always made like decent money, but bro, I live such a modest life. Like
Hmm.
my office, like I show, this is my wife's sundress. You know what I mean? I'm in a closet. I'm
Yeah.
sitting on the floor, right? Like I don't have fancy stuff. I drove a Jetta for the past 3 years because like it's got good gas mileage. It was my wife's car. It's paid off. Like, what do I care? I didn't get my truck until I just got crashed into, until I totaled my car. I live a very, very modest lifestyle. I was always able to save money.
Hmm.
Um, I never overextended myself. There was never a year that I didn't stack cash. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment over a two-family house on a main street, like in our area, for like $12.50 a month for 10 years.
Hmm.
Like, and I didn't have cable. I had internet, so it was like $50 a month then. I had my phone bill, and like that was it. And then like I would see how long I could go without eating sometimes. Like I did a challenge for myself, like how could I eat organic food for $20 a day and still meet my caloric requirements. I did it. Ground beef and rice, like I was fine. And then I'd split. The only thing I'd ever splurge on, like I all my clothes, it's all freak strength gear. Like you
Yeah.
go, bro, this whole closet, it's all freak strength. Like I don't think that's not my company.
Yeah.
I don't wear shoes, so I don't need to spend money on that. Like I'm barefoot 23/7, except for like when I have to go to public bathrooms and stuff. I was able to buy my house and have a good mortgage that was based on my wife's salary, not mine. It was
Hmm.
based on my wife's salary. She was a teacher, and teachers are broke. So we live in a good house in a great neighborhood. The mortgage can be covered. The mortgage and then some can be covered by my wife's salary. No problem. So like I was set. My wife quit her job. We had a kid. With like some of the relationship stuff that comes out now. It's called like an HSP, a highly sensitive person, right? Like she's very, very, very empathetic, like super, super emotional. And dude, like I used to be borderline sociopath. Like Johnny Stoicism, like
Yeah.
every conversation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Doesn't bother me, whatever. Right. And just make decisions as cold as possible. So when she met our daughter, it was over. Like
Yeah.
she had to be home. So and that was 3 years ago. She decided to not go back to work. One day we were talking about it. I was like, all right, we need to make up for the lost income. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And then one day she's like, hey, I quit my job. I was like, what? So I got to figure out a way to make 90 grand because her $60,000 salary plus our health insurance, which
Yeah.
was teacher's insurance. And then she saved for benefits for what's it called as well for retirement.
Yeah.
Gone. So I was like, oh boy, how am I going to make up this money? All right, time to learn about business. Like
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
and then literally right after that, I hired Gym Launch. I bit the bullet. I said, okay, well, I'll drop the 42 grand. Let's do this. So I
Yeah.
built a program, and I hired a guy to run the adult program, Andrew Bird. He's been growing it, and I actually think I covered the 90 grand now. You know what I
Love it.
mean?
That's
We-
awesome.
You know what I mean? Like sink or swim.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So it was I had no choice. So I am not good at business. I am better at business so I can coach. And I went through a little period. The past 3 years, I saw what was possible. And I still have these financial goals. I want to build a business worth selling that was able to be sold just in case I want to retire or whatever. And I want to, or in case I had to take I get a really cool offer for a job and I wanted to take that job. I wanted to build something that was worth selling
Hmm.
or worth buying, I should say, and valuable. And then I also wanted like a certain amount of monetary, like a number that I was trying to hit. So how I was going to get there. And then like I came full circle with that. And like 3 years later, 3 or 4 years later now, I know exactly what I want to do. Like I'm technically quasi retired now because of what I was able to pull off. My house now. I
Hmm.
have the money for my house. My interest rate is real, real low. I make way more money on the money that I have saved already, able to pay off my house. I make like 9% on it versus whatever my mortgage rate is. So I make money not paying off my house now. Right. On top of that, we live well below my means. So I don't have to work. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
People ask me what I would do if I hit the lottery. I said, do exactly what I'm doing right now. It'd just be free.
Yeah.
So like I charge people, we make a good living. Everyone's good. I live below my means. My family's happy. I get to come, like I'm on my lunch break. I usually am with my daughter right now, but she's asleep in the car. Because I learned business, I'm able to live the life that I want to live to be the best coach I could possibly be on top of providing for my family and my employees. Like
Yeah.
I did it for myself and for my other coaches to learn
Yeah.
business. Like they needed it because they depended on me because they're working here for a reason.
That's something I can definitely empathize with because I went through that same life cycle. And I mean, one of the biggest challenges I have is right now currently is like I want to continue to grow my business because I know like I'm starting to see it as like a game, right? And what it's capable of. But I'm always trying to find the balance of because I love to coach and I'm still so fascinated with training and building athletes and doing all these things. And I feel like there's a give and take, right? Like the time you spend working on your business in some ways it takes away from maybe coaching athletes and vice versa, right? For so many years, that's what stagnated the growth of my business is I was just so stuck in the weeds coaching athletes that I couldn't build the business side of it. So how do you kind of work with that dichotomy of time in the business, time off the business? It's an interesting one for somebody who built a business off of the love of coaching and serving athletes, but still also it's like you can't pull back that curtain now that you've seen it, right? So it's like how do you find the balance between the two?
Well, I podcast. That's how I get my learning in.
Hmm.
My podcast is literally just for me to learn. That's probably why it hasn't grown. Um, but like I don't care. It's tough because I have different seasons where I have to do different things.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was obsessed with learning business stuff for the past 3 years. I learned what I needed to learn to get to where I need to go. And there's still more I need to do, but like 20-80 rule, 20% of the effort gives you 80% of the results. Like I'm there.
Yeah.
Up there. I know it needs to be done. I have these things in place now that, and again, like I had to do this work in order to get to where I needed to be. That's all there is to it. If my goal is to coach for the next 30 years, I need to be able to eat for 30 years.
Yeah.
How am I going to eat for 30 years? Well, you got to learn business. So for everyone that owns a business or owns a gym, it's like, oh, my training's better than their training. But they have way more clients than I do. Like, yeah, bro, you got to learn how to get your clients in order to train them.
Yeah.
Like you could have the best program in the world. If you're a dickhead, ain't no one working with you.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So you got to learn how to get clients. You need to learn marketing, lead generation. These are all the things I have to worry about. Lead generation, schedule rate, show rate, close rate. Those 4 things for our adult program. I haven't applied any of this to our athletes yet. We haven't had to. But to grow adults, to grow our stability, our athletes are strictly word of mouth. I'm going to start doing some of the stuff for athletes at some point, but right now it's just been the adults. And you get those 4 things down, and then it's like, all right, provide a good quality product. How do you know if your product's good? What's your churn? What's your monthly? Anything below 5%, you're fine.
Yep.
And if you have a 5% monthly churn, that means you have 60% churn rate annually. That's 60% of your members are gone every year. If you have a 3% monthly churn, that's 36%. A third of your clients gone every single year. So get used to acquisition.
Yeah.
But these are the things I had to learn with starting an adult program. Athletes, of course they go. Every 4 years, you get new athletes.
Yeah.
Of course. You expect that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear how and when you apply that from the athlete side, because we're same. I'd say about 80% of our business is sports performance, 20% is adults, but it's that 20% is slowly starting to build. Our adult fitness director, Matt, does an awesome job, and he runs that stuff and has done an awesome job in the last like 3-4 years. Having that individual there to run that, like that's so important.
Oh, bro, it's life-changing. It really is.
Yeah.
Because that 20% outside of the marketing is 100% profit for you.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Because you already established the athlete side of things. And now if you could get it to match, which is so simple to do, it's just not easy.
Yes.
Now it's just time. We're at 88 members right now. Like our goal is to get to 200. We get to 200, bro. We are sitting pretty.
Yeah, that's all upside. Well, Mike, I appreciate it. If people want to hear more about like what you're doing, your podcast, like where can they find all that stuff?
Type Mike and Brooker into Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever you use. Mike and Brooker Show. That's the podcast. My Instagram is Guadango or Freak Strength. My Twitter is Guadango. My Facebook is Guadango or Freak Strength. Simple.
Yeah, everybody, your personal is definitely worth the follow. I love the getting back to when you troll people. I love that. I'm fascinated. Like, you kind of touched on it. You live a very simple lifestyle. Like, I think one of the things that I like about what you're putting out from a content standpoint is you're talking about training, you're putting stuff out there like that, but you're also, you prioritize the importance of eating well, lifestyle, like sleep, nutrition. I love your stuff in the sauna. It's like something I want to put out in my property out in where I'm at. And you're putting stuff out there that's just tangible, right? Like, cause there's so much information. You touch on it from a scientific standpoint. Like there's always these studies going back and forth. I mean, how many times have you heard like the efficacy, like behind cold plunge versus not doing cold plunge, sauna versus not doing sauna? Like it kind of goes back and forth, but I love how you're sifting through and just giving like tangible stuff for people to hold on to.
Dude, buy a sauna, buy a cold plunge. My setup is like 20 grand. It's worth every penny. I'd pay it again. Every penny. And like when you have practical experience too, like it don't matter what research says.
Yep.
Like it really doesn't. Like research could come out tomorrow and tell me that sauna is bad for sleep. My guy, I don't care what you say, because my dad had been in a real bad car accident. He ended up getting a concussion that kind of messed with his sleep for a little bit. He's 81 years old, and they wanted to give him sleeping pills and muscle relaxers and this. And I said, no. Now you're listening to me. I said, now I'm taking over. And we did some different techniques, breathing techniques, all the nutritional stuff. And then we did sauna. So he comes over every single night. He comes over to my house and we sauna every single night. His sleep has not been bad yet. Every night we sauna, his sleep is perfect. So like research come out that says sauna for the elderly is bad for sleep. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to hear none of that. So like, and It's just like the research that comes out about static stretching, not good for elite performance. Like it decreases fiber activation or whatever it does, like makes you slower. Like, can't tell me nothing, guy. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I think my population's a little my data sample's a little bit bigger than yours.
Yeah.
You know, so like that's when you have real world experience, it trumps a lot, and
Yeah.
you don't have to sift through as much. You could take it in, and it's not gospel because it's going to change.
Yeah.
Look look at this right here. This is I wonder if you could see it from my bedroom window. Um, hold on. Can I flip this camera with No, I can't. Can you see all that out there?
Yeah.
That's our garden, bro. That's like a 40 by 30 garden. And one of my former NFL guys, he and I are still real close, even though he's retired for a while. He said, "Hey, bro, we got to get a trip out to the Guadango farm." And like, that's bro, that's what I want to do. It's like
Yeah.
I said to my wife, like, I want our house to be an
Yeah.
oasis for all our guys, for all our friends. They come here, they can exhale. Like
Yeah.
that's what I want my life. And it's clearly, bro, clearly not stuck up. You know what I mean? But it's a healthy place where you can, and that's where I want to live. That's how I want to live. Healthy
Yeah.
place, stress free, or not stress free, nothing stress free, but like, how are you, like a good environment where you could actually relax, recover, good vibes, good family place. Like that's everything. Like if you saw our lawn covered in kids' toys,
Yeah.
like, and all the neighborhood kids come to our yard. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's the type of life I want to live. So
Yeah.
like, it's as simple as can be, bro.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your time. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the show, please do so. If you get any value out of this, please share it. Definitely gives us an opportunity to bring on more guests like Mike and keep growing the show. So appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, man.